Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses. As we continue with Part 8, The Doctrine of the Four Worlds, Book 2, The Doctrinal Content of the Kabalah, from the Doctrine and Literature of the Kabalah, by Arthur Edward Waite. 3. The Doctrine of the Four World. The Sephirotic system was concerned, first of all, as I have indicated, with the mystery of divine evolution. From that unsearchable condition which is above consciousness, by a mysterious operation, the uncreated will moved outward, and subsequently 3 manifestations or relations of deity were established. By the first manifestation, the Ein Sof passed from latency into activity. The non-ego became ego, subsisting still, however, in a condition which is humanly inconceivable, in the state of pure abstract thought. The concentration of this thought is depicted in Kether, which is also the divine will in its primordial manifestation. The supreme crown is, symbolically speaking, the base or sphere of the divine consciousness. By the second manifestation, the abstract thought entered into, or developed, the relationship of time, so that it could be now regarded as that which was, which is, and is to come. Lastly, it established a relation with nature, that is to say, its development produced the universe. By a slight extension of the symbolism, Kethker is also regarded as the throne of the Ancient of Days, and as the divine consciousness is the veil of the subsistent state, Ein Sof is further represented as the central point of Kether, regarded as a sphere, and the circumference is infinity, which is, as it were, the divine vestment. The later Kabbalists explain that this is because Kether has no vessel or receptacle wherein it may be contained. Hence, also, it is beyond all cognition. The Book of Formation, however, affirms that the properties of all the Sephiroth are infinite. The infinite of beginning, the infinite of ending, the infinite of good, the infinite of evil, the infinite in elevation, the infinite in depth, the infinite at the east, the infinite at the west, the infinite at the north, the infinite at the south, and the Lord alone is above all. As a faithful king, he governs all from the height of his throne in the ages of ages. As the vessel of the divine consciousness, which itself is contained by nothing, Kether contains all things. It is the egg in which reposes the germ of the universe, to borrow the symbolism of another system. In particular, it contains the remaining Sephiroth, which are the sum of all things. The word of God circulates in all, and Kether is in a special sense the spirit of the living God. The second Sephira is wisdom, but seemingly of a middle quality, for the highest of all, the truly celestial wisdom, can be referred only to Kether. That of Chokmah is, notwithstanding, so transcendent that no creature can attain it. It was concealed from Moses, and the wisdom for which Solomon was magnified belongs to an inferior order which connects with the lowest of the Sephiroth. The Sephira Chokmah is described by the Book of Formation as the breath of the Spirit of God. Binah, intelligence or understanding, is symbolically represented by the same fundamental authority as the moisture of the breath of the Spirit. It is the highest Sephira with which man can establish correspondence, but it contains at the same time one mystery which was also concealed from Moses. The root of all roots and the foundation of all foundations is by it communicated to man, who could otherwise have no knowledge of the antecedent states of the divine nature. Magnificence or mercy, Gedula or chest, the fourth emanation, is the warmth or fire contained within the moisture breathed forth by the Spirit of God. It expresses the eternal love and compassion connecting with life and vitality. It is the base of the beneplacitum termin carens mentioned in the last section, and supposes implicitly the free will of the divine agent. It follows from this as a consequence that the universe was made or emanated, not because anything was wanting to the divine completeness, but out of the fullness of goodwill, which is, however, in distinct opposition to some of the later Kabbalists, especially Isaac de Loria. Symbolically speaking, chest is therefore the Sephira by which God constituted the world. The fifth Sephira is Gebra, signifying judgment, justice, judicial power, known also as Pachad or fear. It is the supernal tribunal before which nothing can subsist. Tifereth, or beauty, the sixth Sephira, is in a sense the conjunction of mercy and judgment, and summarizes the divine goodness. It is the heart of the pillar of benignity. But the divine benignity is manifested by the victory signified in Netzach, the seventh Sephira. there are three rays diffused from the splendor of providence, benignity, beauty, and victory. When they shine and are diffused over the Sephiroth, the whole world is filled with joy and perfection. For the divine goodness itself looks forth upon all creatures, and all the worlds are in fullness and completeness. This Sephira is also termed eternity. The eighth Sephira, Hard, signifies glory, adornment, splendor. In combination with Netzach, it is termed the armies of Jehovah. All the salutations and praises contained in the Psalter of David belong to this emanation. It is the place of praise, the place of wars and victories, and of the treasury of benefits. Jesod, the basis or foundation, the ninth Sephira, is the storehouse of all forces, the seat of life and vitality, and the nourishment of all the worlds. Malkuth is the 10th Sephira, signifying dominion, royalty, kingdom. In the Lesser Holy Synod, it is termed the mother of all the living. It is the final manifestation, emanation, or development of the divine nature taking place in the divine world, and is therefore that point at which the more external orders make contact with the supernal. To this brief general description, which rests on the authority and reproduces the words of the Kabbalists, I will now add the heads of an occult interpretation, which is, of course, conjectural, but has a very reasonable aspect. Ein Sof, the unknowable and absolute, manifests through the efflux of the spiritual and material universe, using the Sephiroth as its media. The first emanation symbolizes abstract thought, the absolute assuming consciousness to manifest outwardly. The second emanation represents the association of abstract ideas in the intellect, which association is wisdom. The third emanation is mind receiving the impression of the abstract ideas. These three constitute the spirit of the world. The second triad of Sephiroth, mercy, judgment, and beauty, includes the principles of construction and symbolizes the abstract dimensions of matter, length, breadth, depth, and their double polarity. Chest and Gebura are the centripetal and centrifugal energies between the poles of the dimensions. In their junction with Tifereth, they represent all ethical life and perfection. They correspond to the soul of the world. The third triad is dynamic. Its Sephiroth signify the deity as universal potentiality, energy, and productive principle. They answer to the idea of nature, the natura naturans, however, and not the natura naturata. The 10th Sephira, or Malkuth, represents the concrete and is the energy and executive power of the abstract intellect. The important point to remember as regards both tabulations is that, although their wording is open occasionally to another significance, they are neither concerned as yet with any material evolution, but solely with that development of the divine principles which found its ultimation at last on the material plane, between which and the divine there was the intervention, as we shall see, of two mediate worlds. Now, it must be confessed that the distinction seems absolute between the Sephirotic system and any anthropomorphic conception of deity. It is arbitrary to the point of fantastic, but it seems outside all human correspondences. Its point of view is that the visible world is the last consequence in the development of the attributes of God, or that God, in order to create, had to pass outward from his eternal subsistence. The Sephiroth are the symbolism of the attributes, and the course of their efflux is the history of the divine evolution. This course or sequence is the subject of much discussion among Kabbalistic writers. It is generally held that the Sephiroth were contained originally one within the other, that is, Kether enclosed all those below it, Chokmah enclosed Binah, while Binah contained the seven last, produced by a successive efflux. Originated by points, they expanded in circular shape 10 circles under the mystery of the 10 Sephiroth, and between them 10 spaces. The entire emanation, unlikely as it may seem, was collected together under the notion of a heavenly man, Adam Kadmon, archetypal and primordial. It was similarly collected under the notion of a supreme world, termed Atziluth, the world of deity, of which Adam Kadmon was the sole occupant. This in a special manner is termed the world of emanations. From this proceeded a second world, having also its Sephirotic decade, that of creation called Briac, but not as I infer to be understood in the usual acceptation of that term, for Briar also came forth or was emanated. It was in fact a consequence of the superior world, namely of the effectuating energies of the supreme will, resident in the archetypal world. The Sephirotic forces were carried forward in Brink, and by this prolonged emanation was the world of highest finite intelligence, technically that of the archangels, produced. But the Sephirotic prolongation was continued into a third world, that of Yetzirah, or formation, the abode of the angelic choirs. Though further removed from supreme perfection, there is not a taint of the material in this abode of incorporeal beings. It is otherwise with the world of action, the fourth product of the tenfold emanation, Astia, the region of matter, and also the dwelling of the demons, called shells or cortices by the Kabbalists. In common with many other systems of emanation, this material world is regarded as the gross purgations of the upper regions. It should be observed, however, that the Sephiroth permeate the four systems, but they deteriorate as they proceed further from Ein Sof and the corruption of the infernal world. The formless region and the seven hells of Kabbalism are the extreme limits of the emanation which begins in Kether. Thus, in order to explain the imperfections found in the world-craft of a perfect author, the deterioration of his infinite energy is not disdained as a resource. It is easy to criticize such a system or to set it down as beneath criticism, but again, the disability is common to the dreams of all emanationists. It remains to say that we have the distinct authority of the Zohar for regarding the demons as products of the will of God and designed for a specific purpose. But this point may be reserved for further consideration at a later stage. Broadly speaking, the four worlds of the Kabalah may be regarded as corresponding in the physical order. A. Atziluth to the primum mobile. B. Briah to the sphere of the zodiac. C. Yetzirah to the planetary chain. D. Asaya to the world of the four elements. Thus, astronomy is at the basis of the conception. The doctrine of the four worlds was developed between the period of the Sefer Yetzirah and that of the promulgation of the Zohar, and it received many increments from the commentators on the latter work. It is first met with in the Book of Emanation, which is a product of the school of Isaac the Blind. This treatise is ascribed to R. Jacob Nazir. Its distribution of the four worlds differs from the above tabulation in one or two respects, as for example, by referring the souls of the just to Briah, the archangelic world. It should be added that the Zohar also recognizes a distribution of the Sephiroth into three worlds: 1, intelligible; 2, moral; 3, natural. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment, and if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.